It's always going to be a good time, so come on in. And again, if you're watching this on the replay, because this is live, skip to the first past 5 minutes, and then you'll be able to kind of bypass all the introductory stuff. So it's Friday today. Things are looking pretty good, sliding into a casual weekend. Update for today is, let me see, the Sales Velocity Academy is doing exceptionally well. Great courses on there. Kim, what's happening? Thank you for joining me. That'd be great. Mona, my girl Mona. It's been a while, Mona. Yeah, hope you're doing well. Give me a thumbs up if it's going well. Give me a 1. That means the same thing. Very cool, very cool. So again, I'm just going to wait a little bit. So if you want to go get a beverage or just kind of, take a bathroom break, now would be a good time to do it. And we're going to get started in just a bit. And again, if you're watching this on the replay, again, what I want you to do is just fast forward to 5 minutes. Deepak. All right. Again, if you're from out of the U.S., let me know where you're from. Well, you're from the U.S., man. Tell me what state you're from, man. It's always cool. I got Orlando in the house. Let me see. And here's my girl. I got to put Mona on the screen here. That's my girl, Mona, right there. Mona, there you go. Always great, man. Haven't seen you in a while. Wonderful. Look at this. Morocco. Boom. Morocco in the house. Love it, man. Love it. Love it. Love my international peeps, my folks. Whoa. This is where I want to go. Konnichiwa. Kohei Katsurasako. By the way, if you don't know this already, because you haven't been watching my stuff, Kohei, I am a samurai fan. Like, Akira Kurosawa, I've even watched every episode of Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman. That's, I'll tell you how far back I go. And every Kurosawa movie. So, love it, man. Thank you for joining me. Who do we have here? Iraq, Dr. Ali Munib channel. What do you say, Chanel? Right? By the way, thank you for joining me. Love it. Who else is in the house? Let me see who I got. I got Cyber Mustang TV, which is a great name already. Hey, Victor, I am your avid here in the Philippines. Love the Philippines, man. I've been there one time. Hope you'll be able to notice me here. Boom, I just did. Hey, when I was there, we went to see I think you call it the world's smallest volcano. And it was really cool. Just the trip to get there was actually very fascinating. So thank you for joining me. And let's see who else we got here. India's always in the house. You can't count India out. India's always in the house. And Vaibhav, I totally messed up. I'm just going to call you VW. Yeah, there you go. So cool. Thank you for joining me. Let me see who we got here. Akshay Kumar, I'm a sushi fan. Dude, I am not. Kind of. I don't like the raw fish, but I like the rolls, if you know what I mean. So I can go with that. Again, we're going to get started in about maybe 2 more minutes. So again, go get a cup of coffee. And if you're watching this on the replay, fast forward to about the 5-minute mark and we'll get started. Right now, I'm just welcoming old friends here. Somebody else from the Philippines again. I love it. Let me see what else is going on here. I'll be happy to host you whenever you're here. Oh, you're too cool, man. That's very nice of you, man. That's very nice of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. This name, I just got to pull this name up just because it sounds cool. Kurt Klingenmeyer. You did a great job speaking at the Martial Arts Super Show. It's great that you're an MA fan. Yeah. By the way, I forgot, what was the speaker's name that was also with me on stage? Very popular, wrote a book. I think they did Mark Wahlberg did the movie about him. And I totally forgot his name. Really nice guy behind stage, but behind those eyes, you can just see. If you mess with him, you're done. Do you know who he is? If you remember, let me know who he is. So thank you, man. Thank you for the compliment, by the way. I appreciate that. Looking forward. Thank you, that. Beautiful we got here. And again, I'm going to do 1 more minute. And it's going to be a short session, but I think you'll still enjoy it. This one came up. I need to know who this guy is. I just saw a small YouTuber here, and you are actually the reason why I got started on this career. I used all your sales techniques, and boom, it raised the bar of my career. Thank you so much. Isn't that cool, man? Thank you. Cyber Mustang TV. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. And what else we got here? And again, hi, I'm from India. I have my business. I am into business of advisory of credit rating. Any tips for convincing clients? We can get into that. Ask me that question after I'm done doing my little session. So the way I typically do is I do about maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'm going to answer questions. And because today's Friday, I'm more relaxed, which means I'm not going to rush you off. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can as best as possible. Sales Velocity Academy is awesome. You should have a cult of Victor Antonians. See, I like him already. right? If you haven't checked out that, you should. Got some great courses in there. Let me see. Deepak is also a subscriber. Thank you, Deepak, for your business. And again, give me updates on what you're doing in terms of, what's working and how are you progressing. That I always love hearing from the members. So cool. What else? There it is. That's the guy's name, Marcus Luttrell. The movie was Lone Survivor. Yeah. I met him backstage. And by the way, for those who don't know, I'm talking about is that this was a big event a few years back. And so I was one of the speakers, and Marcus Luttrell was right after me, I believe. And so I remember, like I said, I met him backstage. That's an intense individual. Nice guy, but intense at times. So it was a really interesting meeting him. I think one of the advantages of being a speaker and traveling the world, like literally, is that you get to meet people from different cultures, different places, different backgrounds, and just different attitudes. And it's a beautiful thing, man. So if you haven't traveled, once all this is kind of over, I don't think it'll ever be over, but once it settles down to something that, we can all get comfortable with, if you get a chance to travel, you should travel. I think the more people travel, the more your brain just expands and you see that we're just all human beings on this rotating rock, just trying to get through it in a good way. All right. My friend Doug Lehman. Doug is always awesome. What's up with Doug Lehman? Any updates on your latest book? So Doug Lehman is the video marketing guy. Go check him out at douglehman.com. I finished the book, Doug. It's been edited. It's been laid out. By the way, my new book is called Upselling is the New Prospecting, which is all about upselling. And maybe I'll do, one or two videos on that. But anyway, I got something for you. So let's get started because I think we're about 5 minutes into this thing already. Yeah, we're 7 minutes in. Sorry. Anyway, so I was having a conversation yesterday with one of my coaching clients, right? Nice gentleman. And, again, he's focused on the wrong things when it comes to trying to close a sale. Now, what I want to do is give you a simple model. I touched on it last time on the last presentation I did, but let me just kind of put a finer point on it and maybe go even a little deeper. And it's a simple concept, but a very powerful concept. Now, I want you to think about, let's say you're trying to, by the way, let me put it in the B2B sense. In B2B, you're talking to a client, a potential client or clients. In other words, it's more than one person in the room, and you're trying to sell them, I always use, like a SaaS platform, right? Some type of software platform you're selling, you want to sell that group on how to use it. That's one. Again, if it's B2C, let's say you're selling to residential homes, right? Let's say you sell roofing, you sell tiling, you sell pools, whatever it may be. Again, that's the scenario. You're talking to the one person or you're talking to the couple, right? So those are the two B2C, B2B scenarios. And so when we're going to do a presentation, whether it's B2B or B2C, we go to their house and we're doing the presentation. Let's begin with the end in mind. Here you are, right here. You're right here starting your presentation. That's you, right? And what you want to do is you want to land right here. And this is kind of what I talked about last time. I just touched on it. And let's say that the presentation you're doing is about, let's just say 60 minutes. Let's just use a nice little number like that. 60-minute presentation. Now, this is a 60-minute presentation. I was thinking in my head, could you use this in a transactional sale? If you're doing transactional selling, like real quick selling, maybe you can use this, and maybe we can discuss it later on. But for now, B2B, B2C. Here's where you're at. You're beginning the conversation. Here's where you want to finish. Now, what I said in the last episode I did is that once you know where you want to land, you just work yourself backwards, and that's how you build your presentation. But then, again, let's go a little deeper than that this time. When you land here, there's one of three things that you want. Let's walk to them. The first thing you might want is you want to close the sale, right? You want to close the sale. In other words, you want to get them to commit, sign a contract, whatever. Just commit to the actual sale. That's the first thing you want. The second thing you may want is if it's a B2B sale, which is more complex, or even in a B2C sale, maybe you're only talking to the wife and you have to wait for the husband to come home or vice versa. So maybe what you want in your presentation, knowing up front what the situation is, you can't close the sale. It's almost impossible, especially like in a B2B scenario, right? When you're selling a platform and not all the decision makers are in the room. So maybe what you want to do is you want to advance the sale, right? By advance the sale, I mean you want to take it to the next step, the next logical progression. So If I'm in a B2B situation, I'm trying to sell something, then the next step might be to get more decision makers in the room, or actually do a live demo with everybody in the room, or maybe even use their data in the SaaS platform to demonstrate how it would work for them. So you want to set up a next meeting. It could be a field trial, whatever it may be. In a B2B scenario, B2C scenario maybe, if you're selling to homes, maybe only one decision maker was there, and so you need to set up another meeting where both of them are there. You've convinced the person, wife or the husband, and now you want to go to the next step, which is to get them both in the room. And then sometimes, even in a B2C situation like that, you have to go to the next level, because maybe the first step is get a commitment on working with you, and then closing them, so to speak, on an initial design. An initial design, let's say for a $50,000 pool, you'll say something like this. I said, by the way, for us to get started, to put a design together, it'll be $500. Now, if you decide to go with us, we'll deduct that $500. If you decide, not to go with us, the design is yours, no problem. And so maybe that's the first step. Let's get them to commit to the design. Then the next step is to actually sit down and go through design and close. The third thing that most of us never think about, sometimes we're having a meeting because we want to communicate some important information. We want to leave the audience. I, as a speaker, have to remind myself, what are the three things, and three because, what are the three things, if I ask you this question, what are the three things you want them, I'll just put a brain, you want them to remember? You want them to remember. What are three things you want them to remember? So now, we got three different scenarios of how you would present or set up your presentation. The first one is you're trying to get some type of commitment, right? You're trying to close the sale right there. The second is you kind of get a commitment, but the commitment is really to go to the next step or the next level. For example, my friend Mona here, I think I met her at a Plexus event. Tell me if I'm wrong, Mona. But Plexus Sales is a network marketing company, and sometimes the first step is just to get them to try the product, sample the product, and just begin using it. Maybe that would be the first step. So that would be advancing the sale, that you're just trying to close them, not on joining your team, but maybe just on trying the product. And so I wanted to emphasize this because we don't often think about this. When we're going into a presentation, what do we want to do? Let's go deeper now. Now that you know A to B, this is like Inception. You ever see the movie Inception where they go to different levels? This is like an Inception thing. Here's the first level of Inception. We're trying to get from here to there. And what are we trying to do? Are we trying to change the client's mind? What do you think? Give me a one. Do you think we're trying to change the client's mind when we're having a discussion? I used to think that. But now more and more I'm convinced that we don't want to change a customer's mind. We want to modify their thinking. Now there's a big difference. Before you say that's the same thing, Victor, no, it's not the same thing. I don't think so. Change somebody's mind. It's almost going from 1 to 0 or from 0 to 1. You just totally flip. Nobody totally flips. So for example, if this is the customer brain, and let's say they're thinking A, right? A is their way they think about something. And then so here you are, as a salesperson, let me see if I can draw this right, talking, that doesn't look good. Talking, right? I didn't say I was a drawer. That's a mustache now. You're talking blah, 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 right? And you're saying B, right? That's what you're saying. Customer's thinking A, you're saying B. And so what I'm saying is that to change somebody's mind, you would replace A with B, but that never really happens. That's trying to persuade somebody and just totally flip them. I think what typically happens is after every sales conversation with the client, this is salesperson client, two things happen. They stay with their thinking, A, or based on your information and their thinking, what they do is they take these two and then create C. That's what I think really happens inside the customer brain. You never really change somebody's mind. You basically modify their thinking. And so our job is to what? Modify somebody's thinking. That's why we do this presentation. But anyway, I digress. Let me erase this because I just went off target there. Let me just erase this. And then let's get back to this. This is the part I want to talk to you about. And so when you're looking at this right here, what I want you to keep in mind is that we're trying to close a sale. Now, again, if you're trying to close a sale, don't try to remember or memorize like 100 closes. You don't need to do that. Here's what you want to do. If you're going to close here, what's the question that you're going to ask? That's the key part. What's the question that you're going to ask? And if you're trying to advance the sale, I can say that's pretty much the same thing. What question are you going to ask when you get to the end of the presentation? This is important because too often we're trying to memorize all these cool closes and try to figure out. But if you know that your closing line, mine is, based on these options, which one best fits your need? That's my close. Sorry, that's the only one I use, right? Because I love it. It's a great close. It's the only one I have to memorize. Based on these options, which one of these best fits your needs? And typically I show them 2 or 3 options, mostly 3, right? Which one of these best fits your need? And they're going to go, I think this one. And even if they say, well, let me think about it, then, well, if you see my series on Let Me Think About It, then you know what I say, right? And so I always know what close to use. And because I know where I'm going to land, what close I'm going to use, I just build the presentation that just glides me into that close. But the thing I want to emphasize is that most of us never think about when we're just delivering information. Now, this is why I want to highlight why this is important. This right here is important because what's happening in today's market, depending on which study you believe, you have 6 to 9 decision makers in a B2B scenario. This is B2B. In a B2B scenario, you have 6 to 9 decision makers, right? In a B2C, you'll probably have maybe 2, right? You might have 1, but let's say 2, right? Husband, wife, partners, whatever, right? You have 2 people. Now, here's the problem. Typically when we're in a meeting, we don't have all the people there or both people there, which means that somebody's going to say, for example, you're talking to the husband, right? And the husband finishes, yeah, I like what you're saying, Victor, but I have to talk to my wife. This is the B2C person, but I have to talk to my wife. Now, the problem is when somebody says they have to talk to their wife because they weren't there, how do you know what they're going to tell the wife? How do you know that they're going to transmit the right information? You remember as a kid, you played that telephone game? You remember the telephone game? That, you whisper into somebody's ear what you said, and then they whisper into somebody's ears what they said, and then they whisper into somebody else's ear, and then they whisper into somebody else. And by the time it goes through all 30 students in the room, by the time the message gets to the end, it's totally distorted. Has that ever happened to you? We've done that, right? So what's happening now in this sales situation is that we got a salesperson, we're talking to the wife, or the husband in this case, right? Now the husband has to turn around and explain to the wife because I can't get them in a room. He says, I said, is there any way we can set up a meeting with your wife as well? He says, well, let me just talk to her first, Victor. Okay, when somebody says, let me just talk to her first, now what? This is what I really want to drive home. That's why this is important. Because what I want to do is I now need, when somebody says, I need to talk to my spouse, I'll get back to you, Victor. And again, I can try to set up a meeting. I can try to get them both in the room. But let's just say they push back and say, no, let me just talk to my spouse first, and I'll get back to you. So at this point, you have to think, is this person, 1, really serious? Number 2, can they really explain what I just explained to their wife, right? In this case. So what you have to do is, when somebody says, well, Victor, let me just talk to my wife, and I'll get back to you. Can we schedule something? No, I'll just get back to you, Victor. And I say, fine. Now, I need to know before I walk out of that conversation, is this a real opportunity or is he just trying to get rid of me, right? And so I typically say something like this. Based on the information I give you, what are the 2 or 3 things that you're going to tell your wife, you're going to communicate to your wife that you really liked about what we're offering? Tell me 2 or 3 things that you really liked about what we're offering. Now, if the person says, Victor, well, I like this, I like that, and I like that. And if there are 3 good things, you say, great. But if the person says, well, I like a lot of it, and can you be more specific? And if they can't be specific with you, when they turn around and try to sell it to the wife, they're not going to be specific either, which means it's not going to go anywhere. But it's our problem too. It's our fault also. Because if we had planned from the beginning what 3 things we want to say, these are the 3 things that make us different than our competitor. Imagine if you just planned the 3 things up here. If you knew this from the very beginning, right? From the very beginning, you know what your 3 things were. Then what you're going to do is talk about these 3 things, and then somewhere in the middle, you're going to start what? Maybe you hit all 3 here, and then you're going to repeat it right here, your 3 things, and definitely when you get to the end, you repeat your 3 things, right? You should at least repeat something you want people to remember at least 3 times. And so think of 3 by 3. If there are 3 things you want to remember, just remember, you got to repeat it 3 times because within an hour, people forget about 75% of the information. Putting that aside, if you know what the 3 things are and you're constantly banging away throughout your presentation at those 3 things, on-time delivery, quality, Again, find your 3 key messages. Make them a little different than your competitors, but find 3 messages. So when you get here and you say, Bill, if he says, let's say you're talking to Bill, Bill's got to talk to his wife. You said, Bill, what are 3 things that you take away from this conversation that you like? Really 3 things that we've discussed that you think your wife is really going to enjoy. And if he says, I don't know, I said, then you say something like this, may I suggest something? Now I'm going to train Bill on how to sell his wife. Okay, so what I say, Bill, here's what I would suggest you mention to your wife, because I think these are the most important. 1, let's say, again, we're talking, I don't know, let's talk bathroom remodeling, right? That's a nice home project, right? And I'll say something like this. 1, most contractors will take a week or 2 to complete this type of work. Our record shows that we can finish this in 3 to 5 days. Now, this is important because if that's the only bathroom you have, or you got a second one that's only a half bathroom, you want us to finish this almost immediately. 2, we only use quality products and that's approved, whatever. And the 3rd is that we are licensed and we've been in business for 30 years. Now, those could be my 3 key messages. So when I get there, I said, Bill, these are the 3 things I want you to emphasize to your wife. And all I'm doing is training the trainer. That's all I'm doing is training the trainer to train at somebody else. In a B2B situation, it's almost the same thing. You always have a champion inside. Now, at the end of the presentation, the champion says, I love your stuff, and there were a couple other people in there, but not all the decision makers. Now you have to depend on your champion. Supposing that you can't get a meeting with the top level people yet, you have to depend on your champion to sell. But the thing is, you have to train your champion to go sell. So if you don't have these 3 things defined, what you want your champion to sell for you within the organization, I think you're at a disadvantage. And so this is all I really wanted to talk about today, that you really have to think through. Here's the beginning, here's the end. When you land here, what do you want? I want to close the sale, I want to advance the sale, or I want to make sure they remember 3 things. And whatever the case is, figure that out before you do your presentation. And what's cool, is that if you define your 3 messages, let's go here first, it's going to be easy to really construct a good storyline, because that's all this is. These are your 3 main points, right? And you're going to be able to build towards that story towards the end and then ask that commitment question. It's that simple. So when I say selling ain't hard, I really mean it when you know how. Because again, if you know how to work this, then all of a sudden this becomes a process. And I'll end on this note. If you get good at just this, knowing what to say at the end, working backwards, building a good storyline, that's all selling really is. That's all selling really is. It's really about what is your storyline and how do you get there in such a way that people go, oh, I get it. Now I know what you're saying. But anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. I'll take some questions right now and we'll see how that goes and then we'll go from there. How's that? Cool? All right. So hello from Vietnam. Thank you. I got my man, Shai Bui. Anyway, CB. Thank you for joining me, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let me see. One of the top objections I always have is exactly this one. I need to talk to me. I need to talk to me. I think you mean your spouse. Or I think they'll always use it as a smokescreen. I mean, that could be, right? One of the things I've learned to do, and I think I put this in one of my podcasts, Irie, is that let's say you're doing a B2C sale, right? Let's assume it's B2C that you're talking about. And they're always going to say, I need to talk to my spouse, right? So what I do throughout this presentation, so here's the A again, right? The A again, here's the B. I want you to try this because this is, I think, the toughest objection. Let me talk. It's called deferring to the higher authority. Deferring, like pushing it off to the higher authority. So whether I need to talk to my boss, I need to talk to a committee, I need to talk to my wife. The wife is always the authority, right? Joking. And then, so they're always deferring. So this, I think, is the toughest objection. So what I've learned to do, and I want you to try, is that if I'm going through this process, right? Again, this is a 60-minute process. Somewhere throughout this presentation, as I'm going through the process, I always ask the question. So I would say something to the husband like this. Bill, we mentioned we talked to Bill. I said, what would your wife think of that? We just talked about this, that. What's your wife's opinion on this? What do you think she's looking for? What do you think she would want? Oh, I think she would like this. I think that's something she would really like. And then I can ask questions about you. Now, is your wife this type of person? I mean, this person likes to socialize. Let's say we're doing a pool, right? Or is she more reserved? Because if we're doing she's very social. We can think about putting little party area over here. But if it's more reserved, we can look at doing something else. And so now I'm pretending that the wife is almost there. And then when more conversation, and again, I drop something that I know it's important. I say, and I ask, what's your wife's name? Susie, great. I said, when you talk to Susie about this pool, right? Because I've already confirmed that he talked to Susie. Susie knows he's doing this. What were some of the things that she said she really wanted or must have? And is this one of them? And so I'm always pretending that the person's there. And this allows me to have that conversation. Now, what's interesting, Irie, is that depending on the response you get, you'll know whether the husband and wife are aligned. So that might be a strategy you want to use. And again, you still probably have to wait to get the meeting with the wife, but at least as you're talking to the husband about what the wife likes, the husband now is out of his head and thinking about what his wife would like, which makes the whole sales process, I think, that much more likely to move to the next level. Can't give you a guarantee. That's the best I can do. Let me see. What do we got here? Irie, you're backing up again. What do you say? Talk to my wife. So we're cool on that. By the way, it may be a smoke screen. And if it is a smoke screen, I would ask, I said, by the way, I mean, you could be more direct, Irie, if you want. I'll say, Bill, can I ask you a question? And he's going to say, yes. And I said, when someone tells me, and again, you got to feel this one. There's no science here. You got to feel it first. I said, when somebody tells me they have to talk to their wife, that's usually a polite way of saying, I'm not interested, or you really need to talk to your wife before deciding whether you want to meet again. Which is it? Because if you're just trying to be polite and this is not what you want and we're not a fit, that's okay. And then now you're forcing them to make a decision. And if you do it the right way, politely, they'll tell you what they want. And you know what? You're probably going to get a couple. Nah, you're right. I mean, right now, we're just not going to do this right now, Victor. Blah, 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 whatever it may be. Great. You say, thank you, you leave. I mean, not like that, but you have some conversation and maybe try to figure out why they're not interested right now. But maybe it's something you can't change. But at least you don't walk away thinking, I might get that deal, because it's not going to happen, okay? So anyway, give that some thought. Let me see this one. How to teach insurance agents to sell in this lockdown scenario. I did an event. It was called No Touch Selling. It's in my Sales Velocity Academy. And I'm always going to encourage you to invest in that because I think that's the best investment to make. Again, if you know how to sell, you'll always have a job. So why not invest in yourself? So Chandra, what I'll say is that there are ways you can create a virtual sales flow. I've been working with, trust me, I'm not exaggerating. I've worked with pool companies. I've worked with window companies. I've worked with car dealerships. All three are selling online, and they're doing exceptionally well. What'll blow your mind is that in some areas, these people had to stop advertising because the demand is so high right now. So keep in mind that for each of these companies, what I did is I helped them create a virtual sales flow, which is to sell using different technology. So if you're part of the Sales Velocity Academy, may I suggest you check out the No Touch Selling webinar I did. I think it's like an hour and a half, where I walk you through the tools that you'll need and how to really set yourself up to do that. So that's the short answer, but the long answer. But the short answer is you can create a virtual sales process and sell online. And insurance is just as easy to sell online. By the way, I'm not saying insurance is easy. I'm saying if you can sell pools, windows, and cars, you can sell insurance online. That's all I'm saying. Dinero Motivación is back. So what are you saying? The 15, 30, 60. Okay, I must have missed the first part of that one. Let me see what we have here. Or we go back. Let me see. What did you say before? Okay, so I said I didn't arrive since the beginning, so I don't know if you already mentioned this, but should we use this together with what you explained yesterday? I think, I can't even remember what we did yesterday, the 1530. I mean, you could. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to go through it again. Just go back to my previous stream and you'll see it. But yeah, I would say you could. Absolutely. How is this model different from the other model where you explained that we need to quantify some numbers at the start of the presentation and in the end show means of what that number means? I love it, man. When people are just watching me, they're like, I like it. You guys are keeping me honest. Like, well, Victor, how does that tie into that, what you're talking about? All right, this one, let's go into this one because this one has like meat. Okay, Tarun, you're a tough person, man. I can tell already. So in the last one, and again, I don't want to go into detail, but what I said is that if you're doing, let's say it's a B2B, I said increase revenue, remember that reduce cost, expand market share. And if you can quantify that, put a dollar value on that, right? That provides you with some quantification, right? Boom, solid numbers that you can use as part of your social proof to convince clients that here's what you're going to get. Here's your return on investment. This is why you should invest. That was one part of the model. The other part of the model that we talked about, and I think as I said, or the model we explained that we need to quantify some numbers. We also use here was an event. Remember, everything was normal. We had an event, and then we talk about problem 1, problem 2, problem 3, before we talk about a solution. And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to the previous stream and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so you can use this model in the very same way. Remember, this model was, then you got solution 1, solution 2, solution 3, and then you land here, right? This is where you land. It's the same thing. It's where you land. I just did this more of a storyline. So in other words, if you want to put the two together, Tarun, I gave you storyline from A to B, right? If you take that model, you're going to start right here, and it's going to go like this. Again, go look at this model. I call it the hero story, and it's going to go like that. And it really does that. So it's the same thing. I just drew the straight line because it's easier to draw a straight line. But you can use that whole storyline. Load it up front with great content to let the customer know that you're empathizing with them. That's what you're really asking me. And then as you move through your solution, you do the education piece. And then you move towards the solution, and right here is where you're going to land, and you're going to ask them for something. Let me know if I answered that for you. Okay? Let me see. Let me see. I can't read this one, but this. Let me see this. I'm a part B of it, brother. Okay, cool. You're at the end. I think that's what it means. I like when you guys give me these messages. Hi there again. This is Sid. As said earlier, I am into the business advisory of credit rating. In India is country where convincing people is a way. It's always difficult. I know, everybody tells me this. No matter what country I go to, people go, you don't understand my culture, Victor. Here it's different. What's always different, okay? So I don't know what you're asking me. Advisory of credit rating. I mean, I don't know what you're selling still. You're not helping me here. So see if you can add a little more, because I don't know what that means still. I will check the webinar, Chandra. Good. Let me see. How to sell effectively on the phone for broadband, TV, and phone services. Oh man, okay, now you're asking me to solve a bigger problem. So you're trying to sell effectively, and you're trying to get people to switch, right? That's the big Mustang Cyber. That's the biggest challenge you're going to have, is getting people to switch. I should do a whole webinar or an episode on switching. But here's what I want you to keep in mind. I think I went 3 streams ago. I talked about the iceberg effect, the iceberg in selling. Look that one up. I think it's like 2-3 streams before this one. And without going into a long story or doing the whole thing all over again, you got to first understand why people don't want to change. Now think about it. Even if you came with a better deal for me, said, Victor, I can give you, higher bandwidth, more capacity, more bandwidth, and I can drop the price a little bit, and you'll get more channels. Even if you offered a little better price, the whole process of switching over, from what I'm using now to what you want me to use, that's the challenge. Because getting people to switch over, that's the real resistance. So that's the resistance that you got to push down. And what I would do, to give you the short answer, is I would list out 3, 5, maybe even 7 reasons as to why they don't want to change. And those are the 3 to 5, 7 reasons I would talk about in my sales conversation to reduce that resistance. That's like the short answer. So if you're in the academy, I'm going to suggest you watch, I got a blocking objection series. The blocking objection series, I mean, even just that alone, the blocking objection series is, Cyber, that's the one that will make you more money and is worth really the whole program itself. I mean, study that one and you got it, okay? Sorry for the short answer, man, because if I go too deep, it'll go too deep. Okay, all right, how to answer when the customer asks, I'm getting your product at less price from another place. I get the exact conversation I had yesterday. People are always going to say, when somebody says, VW, listen carefully. When somebody says, I can get it cheaper elsewhere, we've all heard that, right? There's 2 things going on here. Let's go through them. One, it's true, right? It's true. Let's check the box, right? They can get it cheaper elsewhere, right? But when somebody says this to me, I can get it cheaper elsewhere, then I, the salesperson, have failed. Why did I fail? Because I made it about price. Of course they can get it cheaper elsewhere. Of course. I tell people all the time, Victor, your sales training is too expensive. I can get somebody else to do it cheaper. I understand that. But if that's the way the conversation landed, then I've not sold value. If they're only buying here because it's price, guess what happens? If they came on price, they'll leave on price. My statement to you is that if this is coming up all the time, that means somewhere in your presentation, from A to B, somewhere in the presentation, value does not exist. They see you as a commodity. And if they see you just like everybody else, at the end, they'll go to price. But if, depending on what you're selling, right, without going into your whole business model, what you want to do is position your value why you're different. Remember, you, like me, like many people on this chat, we've bought products at a higher price, not because we couldn't get it cheaper elsewhere. We probably could get it cheaper elsewhere, but I bought it from you because I trust you. And I know that if something goes wrong, I'd rather go to you. I take my car to a specific place. I know I'm paying a little more, probably like 10 to 15% more. But I know that when I go there, first of all, quality of job is always high. Second, the guy never lies to me. He tells me when I need something and when I don't need something. So we all pay a little more for security down the road. So somewhere in here, they're feeling insecure because you haven't presented the real value. So without getting into it, that's what I would say. So it's a tough one to answer, but it's a good question. What else we got? So we can start rolling through these. Man, you guys got a lot of questions today. Tarun says, Victor, great answer. Thank you, man. Hope that works out. Let me know. Like I said, keep me posted. And all right, so here we go again. We're going to do this one more time. I think this, okay. It's the third one, brother. It's the third one. This is it. We help our clients get their credit rating based on facts and figures of their financials, which will help them get additional funds at cheaper rates from the bank. I love that, man. So in other words, the first thing I would ask myself, Sid, is who am I selling to? What type of customers am I looking for? So if you got to find people who are motivated, right? That's the key word, who are motivated to get their financial score up. Because what you're saying and what you're doing is beautiful. Because if they get their financial score up, in other words, they get their credit rating up, when they borrow money in the long run, it's going to be cheaper for them. But keep in mind, and by the way, if you're a consumer, you should really understand what he's saying. What Sid's saying is really important because what happens is if today you have bad credit, then if you get a credit card or a loan, you're paying a higher interest rate. And what Sid's trying to do is save you money in the long run. But Sid, most people only care when they're buying something or they're thinking of getting something big. Like for example, and I'm talking out loud here with you. What if I'm going after people who I know and I'm working with a real estate agent, people who are thinking of buying a house? I'm just making this up, okay? You know your business better than I do. But I know that they're going to want to get their financial score up because they want a better interest rate on their 30-year mortgage. If I'm a business person and I need to go to the bank to get a loan, so I'm talking to a businessman right now, and I know that he's going to do some capital investment, buy some assets, then that's the person I need to convince. Hey, look, pay me a little bit of money to help you get your score up, and when you decide to do this, invest, take out a loan, here's where it's going to save you money. So I don't know if that helps, but that's what I would do. I would figure out who would want my services, because not everybody wants it. If you talk to the average consumer, I don't know if they're going to think about it too much. You know what I mean? You might help them, might not. But if you really find people who are starting a family, eventually going to buy a house, then maybe these are the people. So maybe your service is great, which I believe it probably is, but maybe you're targeting the wrong people. Just last note, I was talking to a guy, not talking to him, I was interviewing a guy by the name of, his name is Jeff. It's a great interview. I just posted it, I think, on YouTube. Jeff Kozer. And Jeff Kozer wrote a book called, this is for you, Sid, Selling to Zebras. Selling to Zebras. Yes, I said zebras. The horse with the stripes. Selling to Zebras. And essentially, in there he talks about when you find your zebra, which is your ideal clients, right? Then you can sell and close more deals more effectively. So may I suggest the book, Selling to Zebras? Check it out. Let me know what you think. Cool. All right. Let me go all the way to the bottom. Man, you guys... So, all right, who do I have here? I'm trying to find somebody who hasn't asked me something to make sure everybody gets a little turn. Mediben. Hope I said that right. Hi, I work in insurance sale over phone, but most prospects are reluctant to purchase online and prefer to have a contract in front of them. Any advice on techniques I should use? So they're reluctant over the phone. They prefer to have a contract in front of them. Any advice on that? So I think I got something for you. And I did this this goes to the virtual sales process. So I don't know if have you tried using something like, have you tried Loom? Go to loom.com. There's others like BombBomb. And what this does is that, well, first of all, I think in this world of selling, it's great to be on the phone, but I think now this pandemic has caused people to go online, like on Zoom and stuff like that. So my point to you is, if you can get people on a video call, like a Zoom call, that's more effective, right? Because you can share information with them. You can do share screen, the whole bit. So that'd be one suggestion. If I can get them to switch from phone to video, that'd be great. You might be saying, Victor, I can't do that. Well, let's say that you're having a conversation, and then they say, well, send me the contract. The problem is, they're not going to read the contract, right? And even if they read the contract, they might need help. So I like Loom. Loom is a simple application software. I think it costs like $4 a month. And what you do is, I can have the contract on the screen, right? And then I can hit my record button, and it will record a video of me explaining it. I can just scroll to the first part. Now right here, here's a description of the contract terms. This is why this is important. This is what I talked to you on the phone about. So focus on that. That's an important read. Now, let me scroll down. And you can scroll down, and again, the screen will scroll and show the contract. It's now right here. And then when you're done, you just hit stop recording, and it automatically, if you can visualize it this way, here's your contract. It automatically puts your video right there, your face explaining the contract. And what's cool about it is that when you send it, by the way, once you're done recording, it gives you a link. You just click the link, and it sends the contract, or the video, so to speak, with your face here explaining it. It creates a link, and then all you have to do is send the link. That's all you do. The customer then clicks on the link, and you receive a notification that somebody clicked on it, which means they received it. Click 2, they opened it, and they watched it. And you can actually see if they actually watched the video of you doing the actual proposal. So that might be a interesting strategy. Try it. Let me know what you think. Cool. Let's see. All right. Who else is down here? Who's this right here? Let me see if I can get this one going. What's this one? I work on cold calling. Why did I know cold calling was going to come up? I never do one of these without cold calling coming up. Carolina Cortez. ¿De dónde? From where? I work on calling people to sign them up into debt consolidation. Sometimes they don't want to enroll in the program, thinking we are a scam. Okay, so full disclosure. So life or debt. Okay? Life or Debt is a program on Spike TV, now Paramount, where I am the host of that show. If you've seen that show, give me a big one. And so in there, I work with families on how to get them out of debt, right? Because most of these families are in big time debt. And so the reason I'm having a hard time with this one is because I can't answer something I don't believe in. Yes, this is the first time this is going to happen. Because the problem with debt consolidation, and this is where I have a problem with it, is that it's not that it's a scam. It is not a scam. So I'm with you on that. It's not a scam. What it does, it takes, you know how it works, but just for everybody else listening to this, I'm going to tell you why I like it and what I don't like about it. What I like it about is that you can take all these different credit cards, right, or debts, and consolidate them into one credit card. So if you owe 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, now you just consolidate it here, $25,000, and then you take a small fee for helping them do that, right? And you probably try to give them a better rate and help them out. So if you can consolidate and get them a better rate, I love that. That's the part I love about debt consolidation. Now you just have to worry about what? Knocking down one bill. But what I've seen happen over and over again, this is the negative side of it, is that when people only have one bill, what do you think they start doing? Spending more. And we've seen the patterns, right? And so just remind them. So from a logical standpoint, debt consolidation makes sense. I mean, people could actually do this themselves if they wanted to. You're like the middleman, right? Because all they had to do is begin paying down each credit card on their own, and they probably could save some money. Debt consolidation just makes it easier to do one payment. So it's not a scam. So I want to emphasize that. It is not a scam. But psychologically, it tricks the person into thinking, okay, now I just got one bill instead of 5, and then they start spending again, and we've seen the numbers go up. The way I would sell it, because it is not a scam, is that if you can offer them a way of consolidating all their bills so they're not paying 5 different people, that's a big plus. If they're paying crazy interest rates on all these, my approach would be to say, you're paying all this. I take all these 5 credit cards and I run it out for 5 years, because that's what it's going to take you to pay all these off, this is what your amount would be. If I consolidate it and give you that number, even if you rent it out for 5 years, that's what that number would be. And then I would try to show them that difference. I totally covered that up. That's how I would sell that. I would sell it like that. If you stayed with what you're currently doing over 5 years or 3 years, pick your time frame, this is what it's going to cost you. But if you consolidate it, this is what you're going to pay. And then there should be a significant difference. So even if you're charging them a fee compared to what they're going to save over the next 2-3 years with debt consolidation, that's how I would pitch it. Remember, Carolina, the brain is about before and after. It's like weight loss programs, right? Here's how I was before. Here's how I am today, after. So if you can show them what they have today, how bad it is, because some people don't even know they're paying 30% or maybe even more, right, on these credit cards. If you can show them where they're at today, so this is before right here. So if I can say this would be before right here, and then this would be the after part. And then this is what you really want to show people. Look, this is before and after. And if you can make a big difference, then I think you got a great way of selling it. So again, I have a tough problem with that, because I think people should pay off their credit card and not consolidate them because it tricks them. But it is a good service if you can help them out with a percentage in the long run. So sorry for the long answer on that one. All right, what else we got? And Carolina, don't be mad at me if you disagree with me. We just disagree. Okay? Let's see. Hold on a second. Like I said, I see some familiar names, which I do appreciate, but I'm just trying to, let me see. How to close deals. Many ways. You gave me a short question, I'll give you a short answer. Come on, you got to give me more than that, man. So, how to close deals, in many ways. Let's see. I'm going to go through a couple here. Man, you guys are in the game. I love that. What's this one say right here? I can't read it. Tuned in, Bazabman, the last name. Tuned in from India just now, trying to figure out what's going on. It's a party going on, man, and you're missing it. It's a sales party going on, and you should have been here from the beginning. Great content has passed through, so you're going to have to watch it on the replay, man. Paco, what brand is that awesome digital board? Dude, I'll put that in the description down there, because I'm also going to put a discount code. I've been getting that question a lot, so when you later on when you go back to this live stream, read the description, and I got a nice discount code for you, okay? Cool. It is a cool board, man. It's actually helped. Let me see. How to develop reseller Netto. Don't know what that means, man. Don't know what that means. Just clarified, and I'll try to help. All right. I'm in a contracting company. We are 3 or 4 preference in customers, but our prices are much higher than our top contractor, and there's too much overhead charges. How to get more sales? Oh man, you're really killing me with this one. Okay, so I'm a contractor. Maybe I don't know. Okay. I'll just assume it's just general contractor for buildings or something like that. And we are 3 or 4 people. Or we are 3 of the 4 preferences with the customer, and our prices are much higher than our top contractor. No, you're the top contractor because you're much higher. And there's too much overhead charges. How do we get? So in other words, you have a Akib, if I got that right, Pagakar. So AP, if you have your prices higher, again, it's all mindset sometimes. It's how do you look at it. Now, so let me, because I don't think higher price is the issue. Pricing isn't the issue. I know what you're going to say. Victor, you don't understand our country. You don't understand our culture. Trust me. At the end of the day, here's what I found. Tell me if you agree. Let me just give you the general gist of this. I always draw this curve. Look, 20%, 60%, 20%. Think about this. 20% of the people always buy on price. They buy on price. 20% of the people always buy on price. No matter what you throw you on, no, give me a better price or I'm not buying. That's all they care about. They just want the price. I'm with you on that. The other 20%, I call these status buyers. Guess what? They don't care about price. Give me the best. Give me the top of the line. That's what I want. I'm sure you have some of those customers. Now, these customers for you should be an easy sell. Now, that leaves us with what's going on in the middle. And what's going on in the middle are these 60%ers right here, right? The 60%. Now, the 60%, let me move this down a little bit. The 60% are just, I always say, they can go this way or that way. Our job is to what? Push them that way. So 20% of people always buy, pay the price. But I also believe that the 60% here, if you position the value of contracting and they trust you, they'll buy. Again, I'll say it over and over again. People don't typically buy on price. Different studies have shown this. So what I would say is, of course you have higher overhead. I used to sell products, and I kind of still do when I sell my own services. People always tell me, I get this a lot. Out of 10 customers, maybe 2 will always say, Victor, you're too expensive. We can't afford you. I go, I understand. I'm not for everybody. So you got to first define who you are for. Who do you sell to? Who are, as I mentioned earlier, who are your zebras? You can't sell to everybody. So instead of trying to sell to everybody, find people who are more on this side. If somebody wants to buy on price and that's all they're going to buy on, immediately disqualify them. Now, if you're selling a product, and again, I have coaching clients, and the one I was coaching yesterday, his excuse was, we're always overpriced. And I said, by how much? And he said, about 20%. I go, that's not a lot, right? I'm not saying it's a little, but it's not a lot, 10 to 20%. Many of us have paid 10 to 20% just to work with a certain company. And so what I would recommend is find a way to position your value. So if you haven't joined this, and I know I keep doing this because it's important, is that there's a program called Value-Centric Selling that's in there that tells you how to position price. And then the upselling and cross-selling stuff shows you how to position price and move the customer up mentally on a price point. But I want to change your mindset. If you're selling at 50% higher, 30 to 50% higher than your competitor, I think you got a problem. Maybe there is too much overhead. Then you're kind of screwed because that's hard, right? When you're 30 to 50% over, you better be doing something really different for a customer to say, I'll work with you. But if you're 10 to 20%, that's your overhead, you can overcome that. So that's something in your presentation is, remember the whole A to B? Again, if I go from A to B, and when I land on B, all they focused is on price, that means that something in my presentation has no value. They're not valuing what I have in the presentation. That would be my short answer. Cool? Let's see what this one says. Victor, I have a final interview on Sunday with the CEO of a company that is reshaping the startup community. Interesting. That's intriguing. All right. Any suggestions on preparation tips for me? Thanks, brother. Thank you. So what I would think about is that, okay, so he's reshaping the startup community. The CEO is reshaping. Again, I always say, try to get into their heads. What are they struggling with? This guy's struggling with the same thing. Remember the increased revenue, reduce costs, expand market share. And even if it's a nonprofit, they're still trying to what? Raise revenue, raise awareness. They're always trying to do something. So what I would do is say, what is this guy trying to do? First of all, research him online. Research the company online. Figure out what they're doing, what projects they're working on. Pick 2 or 3 projects that they're working on, right? And then I would ask myself, what is this CEO trying to do? And you can kind of get an idea of what they're trying to do. If they're trying to spread the word, then marketing is an issue for them. If they're trying to do it in an effective way without spending too much money, they're trying to reduce costs. Remember, marketing is expanding market share. If I can do it efficiently, I can reduce costs. And if I can drive more revenue, there he goes. I can do that. So remember the Trinity, right? Increase revenue, reduce costs, expand market share. Figure out where this person's pain point is. You're going to talk about passion and everything they're doing for the startup community. And so take the first part of that meeting to just connect with them and says, you know what, I understand what you're doing. I love what you're doing. And that's kind of the reason I wanted to talk to you, because I see that there's some synergies between your passions and my passion and so forth and so on. And then quickly move into, here's why I believe I can help you, depending on what you're trying to sell, because here's what I know you're trying to do. Again, watch the last live stream. And you'll see I talk about that hero story about, getting into their heads. And so try that. That would be the easiest way. If you say, what's the one preparation tip? Get into their head, brother. Get into their head, okay? Let me see what else I got. Chandra with a nice big thank you. You guys are awesome. You're very welcome. Others from Nigeria. All right. You gave me, I got this one already. Boom. And I think I'm done. I think you guys have ran out of questions, or either I missed some. How's this? How to develop dealers or reseller networks to sell your products? It's a good question. I think the answer to that would be is, do you have like an onboarding process? Do you know what I mean by that? By an onboarding process. In other words, if somebody joined your company today, do they have the process? So, friend of mine, Anthony Iannarino, always says, there's tool set, right? There's tool set, there's mindset, and then he says there's skill set, right? Tool set, mindset, skill set that you should have for every person. So the tool set, when somebody comes into your company, do they have all the tools they need to sell everything from brochures to apps to, our technology stack to run to really get into the business? Do they have the tools? The skill set is, what type of training or sales training do you have available for them that's customized for your market? In other words, when they come in, you can give them the tools, right? Again, this could be apps and everything else. And how much training? That should be documented. Okay, here's what you do. Here's the process. This is what we're looking for. This is who we're cold calling. This is who we're talking to. This is the presentation. This is the value we offer, blah, 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 blah. Here's how you close the deal. Here's how you ask for it. And then if you get these two in line, then this one becomes easier, the mindset piece. Because if I have the tools and I have the training, my mindset, and I have your coaching, because that's the third part, right? How do you coach people? And then that would be the winning combination. So try that. Bottom line is, do you have a process when somebody joins you that you can hand them the process, coach them, and then they'll be more successful? Hopefully that helps. All right. Okay, we got some. Thanks for answering the questions. You're very welcome. Hope that helped. Let me see. Victor, the way you read sales books, as you mentioned, that you look for models, but in some cases, books are not designed in that way. Well, they don't have to be. That's why I did it. So when I created this book, Sales Models, is because I needed models, right? And so, for example, this right here, somebody said it, right? I heard Anthony Iannarino say this one time. Immediately my brain, it's not in the book, but immediately my brain said, oh, that's kind of a model. 3 sets. And I created a model. Remember, don't look for a model. I share models with you, but in the end, you create your own models. So if you know that, hey, you know what, these 3 things are important, so I should keep these 3 things in mind. So even if a book doesn't explicitly state a model, it's based on your comprehension that you start creating models. Remember, a model is just a way of you looking at a situation or a context of a conversation, right? It's the way you view the world. It's your optics, your lens of the world. And so for me to understand, because the lens helps you understand, see better, the model just helps you see things better. And so sometimes there's explicit models. People say, hey, here's a model. But in many cases, I go, well, I don't know if I can use that. It's too complicated. And then how would I simplify that? And then I create my own model. So bottom line, dude, create your own models, right? If you can't find one. And on that note, man, I am signing off. I think we've been on here for at least an hour already. Thank you. And yeah, almost an hour. We'll see you on the next live stream. Thank you guys for joining me. And as always, remember, selling ain't hard when you know how. And if you haven't subscribed, do it today. Anyway, take care, guys. Have a